Hi everybody. A few days ago I promised people that I'd come back and do a crochet tutorial on how I make the little rolled roses that I use to decorate my projects. Now you see one here, this little cream yolk here, and if you can crochet at all and if you can make the basic crochet stitches, all you need to be able to make are all the stitches you need to know for these little flowers are just how to make a slip knot, the slip stitch, the half double and the single crochet. I'll explain as I go along, and for this video I'm going to concentrate on the flower. I will come back later and I'll do a video showing how I made the two leaves, a double leaf. I make the two leaves at the one time so it's much easier to keep track of. Now I'm going to use Aran weight yarn, thick yarn for this, because it'll mean that you can see the stitches I make much easier. They'll be much clearer and much better defined. So usually when I do this I get comments saying that it would have looked nicer if I used thinner yarn or if I use fine crochet cotton. I know that, folks. The reason I'm doing it is, once again, just to show people exactly what I'm doing. So let's start. All you need is some crochet yarn. Now as I said, I'm using Aran weight yarn, and I'm also using a 4mm hook. I think this is also called a G hook. I use a smaller hook than the wool would call for, because if you look on the ball band, this is the yarn I'm using, super soft Aran. You can also use worsted weight, but it'll tell you on the ball band to use a 5mm crochet hook, or what does it say here? Sorry. Yes, a H8 or a 5mm crochet hook. Now I find for these roses to use a smaller crochet hook and make them tighter. So let's get started. Let's get our hooks out and do a bit of damage. Now to make a slip knot, now this tutorial is suitable for, say, advanced beginners or people who know how to crochet already. And I know some of you have a bit of difficulty with the slip knot. So you take the yarn that's coming from the ball and you wrap it around in a circle. Then you put your yarn or your hook into the circle and grab up the end of the yarn and draw it through the circle. And that's your slip knot. Tighten it. I'll do that again. Take the yarn that's coming from the ball, put it down, this is the end of it here, wrap it round in a circle, put the hook in through the circle of yarn, grab up your thread, like your yarn like that, and pull it, just pull it tightly. And the rolled rose we're going to be making today is quite small, so I'm going to chain 12, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now for a bigger rose you can add more chains, and but try it first of all with the small one. So the stitch we'll be using is the half double crochet. If you use a double crochet stitch, they will be bigger. So I'm just using the half double because it makes a nice, neat little rose that rolls up properly. Excuse the state of my nails, I'm been gardening and whatnot, so they're not great. So into the third chain from the hook, make a half double crochet and make another half double crochet. That's the stitch where you wrap the yarn around the hook, you put your hook into the stitch, you draw through one loop, then catch up another loop and draw through the 3 loops in the hook. So you make 3 half double crochets into each chain. It doesn't matter if you miss one or if you miscount and you make 2 instead of 3. This is a very relaxed, easygoing pattern. So you work your way back down towards the end of the yarn where you started putting on your making your chains, and 3 half double crochets into each chain. And don't worry about the holes here. If you have holes or gaps, it doesn't matter, because these will all be hidden when your rose is formed. So keep going, and you'll find that the yarn naturally, the whole thing naturally begins to twist of its own accord. So I'm down here, I have another one here, and I'm down here at the last 2 chains. So I'll make the 3 double crochet into the last 2 chains, into each of the last 2 chains. Now I'll also write out the pattern and put it in the description box, but it's more of a technique than a pattern. So then you just cut your yarn, leaving about 5 or 6 inches to sew up, and pull it off like that. And this is what you will be left with. So you go back down to the end where you started making your half double crochets, and you see the way the start of the rose is already beginning to roll. So you just roll the fabric you've made round into the shape of a rose. It automatically forms a rose. You don't have to worry. I'll do that again. That's what it'll look like when you're finished the crochet part. Just get the end, tuck it around like that, and wrap it around. Then you thread your darning needle of my darning needle, and just make a few stitches through the base to just gather the layers together and to keep the rose from opening up again when you add it to a project. Now you do this very, very loosely. If you pull the thread or the yarn at all, you'll find that the rose will turn into a square shape, and this isn't really what we want. Now, I presume you'll be gluing or sewing it to a project, so you don't have to make a big deal about sewing in your ends. I'll just cut this one here. You can also just glue a circle of card to the base of your flower once you've finished, making the few stitches, and this is what you should end up with. And you can see how if you put a pearl in the center of it, it looks fabulous. And when you add your little leaves to it, this is what you have. And you can see it's quite high and it's quite 3-dimensional. But if you want to make a lower rose, use the single crochet instead of the half double and do exactly the same thing. Now here's another rolled rose I made earlier with the iron weight yarn. You can see how fabulous it looks. All it needs is a pearl and the 2 little leaves, and I said there will be a separate video about doing the leaves because it is a whole other technique. That's all you need. Now I'll just give a quick run through about doing the rolled rose with the single crochet. Once again, you start off the same way. You make your slip knot. Sorry, I need a bigger end. Make your slip knot, put the slip knot on the hook and make 10, 11, 12 chains, it doesn't matter. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then make 3 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. Sorry, I've gone off camera. Sorry, I'll start that again. You make 10 chain, 10 or 11 or 12, it doesn't matter. And then into the second chain from the hook, make 3 single crochet. And the same into the next chain. You can see all the chains all the way along there, 3 single crochets into each one. Until you get to the end, and you should have something like this, a little curl. And I've come to the last, I'm down here again at the last 2 chains, so I make 3 single crochets into each chain, right up until the end. And then pull the thread through. Then I'll go back to where I started, and you see here where it's starting to curl up already. Just gently form it into the shape of a rose, and this one will be much lower and flatter than the first rose we did. It just depends on the project you're working on and how much depth or how deep you want it to be, or whether you want it to be 3D or quite flat. Once again, you can add a little pearl to the center and make leaves for it. Now if you don't want to go making crochet leaves, you can add paper leaves or fabric leaves or anything that suits you. Now here's another little rose I made earlier using just the single crochet, the 3 single crochets into each chain. We'll put our little pearl in here and add it to the leaves. Let's see how it looks. And it would look lovely on the cover of a mini album, or you could add a brooch pin to the back of it and make a little brooch. Maybe get thinner yarn and make smaller flowers. We'll pretend that this is a mini album, and there's some of your flowers on it. Just use your imagination. There you are. Little pearl in the centre. Yeah, I know they could be arranged better, but I'm just giving you the idea. Yeah, it's a dog's biscuit box, but it's nice on the inside. Has a lovely kind of waxy craft cover to it. So there we are, folks. That's our little plain rolled rose. Now there are more complicated rolled rose patterns out there, and I might come back and do those in another video, but my next crochet video will definitely be how to do the leaves, so you can add the leaves to your project, and I'll also give you ideas on how you can other things you can make with the leaves. So there you are. Just pretend I've sewn the ends in. So thanks for watching, and please, if you have any spare time over Easter, it doesn't look as if the weather is going to be very good in my neck of the woods, so if it's bad in your place, maybe just do a little bit of crochet and make some rolled roses. So thanks for watching, and any questions, put them in the description box. If you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. I might actually do a whole series on crochet embellishments for Papercrafters. I'm just a bit nervous at the moment about doing the whole thing and actually crocheting on camera, so I do need a bit of encouragement. But please, if you can crochet at all, it's a very cheap way to make your own embellishments for your paper crafting projects. Thanks for watching. Bye.